Hello Booktube, Aaron here. Hope you're doing okay. I thought I'd carry on with my library tour for 2023. I believe this is video number 4 now, and we're over here at the main bookcase. So my living room is like a long, well, not very long, but it's rectangular, and I essentially use this bookcase that you usually see in the videos as a divider between the two halves of the room. So I've kind of got a small sort of nice, relaxing kind of lounge space, and then more of a sort of dining room kind of area towards the back, although it's not really used as a dining room that much. But yeah, it essentially kind of zones the room quite nicely, and it means that I can use both sides for keeping books. And so we'll start over here at this top corner. Quite a lot of it is Jane Austen, and then there's a fair bit that I won't really have too much to say about. So I'll try and say a bit more about the books that I have read, or I've got something to at least something to say about. So I'll start over here. Before I break it, because I know I will, I'll just move this out of the way. A nice sunflower little LED kind of thing. And first up, we've got some Pushkin Press books, and although I'd seen them about, I never really picked any up until last year, and I've really grown to like them. I really enjoy the size of them and the feel of them, and just the proportions and the design, and just everything about them is just really lovely. And so first up, we've got A Chess Story by Stefan Zweig, and I read this last summer, and for me it's just a perfect short story. It's let's see how long it is. It's 107 pages, so you might say it's more of a novella or a novelette, something like that. But it's just the right size to sit in a sitting if you don't really have anywhere to go. I ended up reading it, I think, in 2 sittings, maybe. I planned to read it over 2 days, and instead I read it in 2 sittings in 1 day, because instead of going to bed I decided to finish it. So it's just an amazing story about kind of madness, but I suppose more trauma, and it's all centered around a game of chess, and it is actually really, really intense. You might find that, you know, a book all centered around chess is a bit boring, but it's an amazing story, and it's not too long. It's just long enough for what it is, at least. Next up, another one that I read last year. It's And the Earth Will Sit on the Moon, the essential stories of Nikolai Gogol. And I should probably see who's translated these. These are translated from the Russian by Oliver Reedy. And I hadn't come across Gogol until last year, and he's an author that's really impressed me, really kind of excited me, really. I love The Nose and The Overcoat. I'm always in 2 minds as to which I prefer. I think The Nose is a much more memorable story, maybe, but the Overcoat, when I was reading it, was just much more, I don't know, it just got me feeling a lot more, I suppose. And there's some other stuff in here as well, but it's really, those 2 stories kind of steal the show, but the rest is really, really good as well. Oh, and I should say for Stefan Zweig, so A Chess Story is translated by Alexander Starrett. I should do a better job of remembering that. And then the last Pushkin Press is Of Sunshine and Bedbugs, the essential stories of Isaac Babel. Don't really know too much about Isaac Babel. I got it just because it looks interesting, and the cover is amazing. I'd heard his name sort of bouncing around a little bit. I think he writes a lot about gangsters and things like that, and just like the seedy underbelly of early 20th century Russia. So that's the kind of impression I get. But yeah, this remains unread, so I'll try and get to Isaac Babel at some point. And this is translated by by Boris Dreluk. No, Drauliuk. Um, really sorry. Yeah, another thing I really quite like about the Pushkin Press books is that they have the author there as well in a really nice big full page photograph. Then next up, we've got a couple of Persephone books. So they're a publisher and bookshop in the UK, and they publish either works by forgotten writers, overlooked writers, particularly women writers who may have been overlooked, as well as just overlooked books by authors you might have heard of. And so this is an author you probably will have heard of. It's Frances Hodgson Burnett, who wrote Secret Garden and A Little Princess. And this is the making of a Marchioness. I don't know too much about this. Jasmine picked it up. So yeah, I don't really know too much about it at all. But all of the Persephone books, they have these great sort of custom end papers with a matching bookmark. Yeah, it just makes them feel really special, and they always look really nice and classy, and they're all numbered, so this is number 29. And then we've got The Exile's Return by Elizabeth Duval, and this is about Vienna, I think after the First World War, and just someone coming back and seeing how things have changed. I think her and her family, I'm not sure how much they would have experienced this. I'm trying to remember. They might have come back, her family, after the First World War, and then I think they left Vienna for good in the Second World War. Yeah, I heard about this kind of through the hair with Amber Eyes by Edmund Duval, and it's about his family in the 20th century. And before that, in the sort of mid to late 19th century as well, and just Vienna, from that period, from the late 19th, through to, the Second World War, is a really wonderful and fascinating place, and has not really been the same place since. And I don't know too much about it, but I'm really, really curious about that time period and that place. And this is someone who's lived there and who really loves that place. And and then they're just channeling all of that into a novel. So yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I'm really, really intrigued, and it's one of those books that I keep thinking I really should get to it at some point. Next up, we've got a big pile of Jane Austen books, and they're all published by Everyman, and it's a matching set that Jasmine got when she was a teenager, because she'd never read any Jane Austen, and then she made a new friend, and her new friend's favourite author was Jane Austen, so she had to find out what this Jane Austen lady was like. And I think then she saw this matching set advertised in a magazine, and so she wrote off for it, and it came in the post. So pretty old school. But before we get to them, there's this little pamphlet, The History of England by a Partial, Prejudiced and Ignorant Historian. Just a little funny pamphlet she wrote about the history of England. So then let's try and get through some of these. So we've got Pride and Prejudice, we've got Sense and Sensibility, we've got Mansfield Park. I read this edition over the summer. Really weird, kind of almost surreal cover to the book there. Then we've got Emma, which is my least favourite Jane Austen book. Sorry. Then we've got Persuasion, which is my favourite Jane Austen book. And then we've got Northanger Abbey, which, although it's not my favourite, is it has a very particular place in my heart. And then we've got Lady Susan, or The Watsons and Sanditon, which I haven't read any of these, but this is, you know, sort of the odds and ends, I suppose, for Jane Austen. And then, oh yeah, the last Jane Austen we have then is another copy of Pride and Prejudice. And this is the Lizzie Bennet Diaries edition. So that was like a weird YouTube adaptation of Pride and Prejudice in vlog format. And it's really quite fun. And yeah, there's some sort of stills from the show, just as the sort of end papers there. I thought it was it's pretty fun in a dorky but lovable way. Then we've got a Christmas card from, I don't know, I don't think Christmas just gone, but I think the Christmas before that. And then we've got loads of L.M. Montgomery. I don't really have too much to say about L.M. Montgomery. I have read a little bit of Anne of Green Gables, but I don't think I've read the whole thing. Just sort of got a taste for it. But yeah, Jasmine's got the kind of the whole set matching, which is actually apparently quite hard to do. So we've got Anne of Avonlea, we have Anne of the Island, Anne of Windy Willows. I'm going to try my best not to mix them up because I'll forget which order they're supposed to be in. Anne's House of Dreams, Anne of Ingleside, Rainbow Valley, and Rilla of Ingleside. And then there's an L.M. Montgomery book I have read and I quite enjoyed. So it makes me think I should read some more L.M. Montgomery. And this is The Blue Castle. And it's about a woman who essentially she gets a doctor's note that isn't good. You know, it says that she's going to die. It doesn't know exactly when, but you know, the doctor's, you know, just saying, make yourself prepared. You don't have long for this world. And she's quite the character in this book. She's quite passive. She lets people, you know, just sort of run circles around her, and she decides that she's just going to live her own life, and she becomes I suppose just the eccentric in her circle, and just because she's changed so suddenly and has suddenly just decided that she's going to live life for herself. But there's also a kind of will they won't they kind of love story in there as well. So yeah, I think it's really, really fun. It's a good little book. And then the penultimate L.M. Montgomery on this shelf, The Blythes Are Quoted, which, if Jasmine explained it to me correctly, I think is L.M. Montgomery kind of wrapping up the whole sort of world of Prince Edward Island and Anne of Green Gables and all of that. So I think that's sort of the last thing that she wrote in that world. Oh dear, I haven't positioned myself terribly well. And the last of the L.M. Montgomerys then is The Complete Chronicles of Avonlea, which is, again, I think it's something that's not too easy to find, so it's in this probably kind of print-on-demand edition. But these are just all short stories set in Avonlea, and it's sort of all the characters from Anne of Green Gables, and Anne is kind of in it, but she's more of a side character. And so you're seeing that world from a different angle, is I think the idea behind it. And then finishing up a couple of books that are more Jasmine's kind of thing. There's Hind's Feet on High Places and The Mountains of Spices. And I've only heard bits and pieces about these. I get the impression that they are kind of a bit like Pilgrim's Progress, that they're sort of supposed to be allegories. But the impression I get is that they're, well I was going to say less self-conscious, but I don't think you can really have an allegory that isn't self-conscious. But there's something to them because they're coming after something as monumental as something like Pilgrim's Progress. That they are just very aware of what they're doing in a way that maybe John Bunyan wasn't. I don't know. I haven't really read them, so I can't say for sure. But that's the impression I get from sort of hearing about them from people. But there we go. I'll leave it there with me being confused and not really knowing what to say. We'll move on to some Penguin modern classics and things like that next time, and I'll have a little more to say about those books. There's plenty of books that I've read and enjoyed, and plenty of books that I would quite like to read and hopefully enjoy. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.